The Senate will come to order. We are on the third agenda. We are on Order Business 4, Reports of Committee.
Madam President, your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which is referred Assembly Bill Number 280, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, amended, do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Pat Spearman, Chair. Madam President, your Committee on Finance, to which were referred Senate Bills Numbers 463, Assembly Bills Numbers 230, 321, 376, 416, 432, 443, 445, 486, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, do pass. Also, your Committee on Finance, to which is referred Assembly Bill Number 256, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, do pass. Also, your Committee on Finance, to which is referred Assembly Bill Number 266, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, do pass as amended. Also, your Committee on Finance, to which are referred Assembly Bills Numbers 224, 241, 341, 349, 355, 387, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, amended, do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Chris Brooks, Chair. Madam President, your Committee on Judiciary, to which is referred Assembly Bill Number 219, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, amended, do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Melanie Scheibel, Chair. Madam President, Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, to which were referred Assembly Bills Number 65-315, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, do pass. Signed, Senator James Orenshall, Chair. Madam President, your Committee on Revenue and Economic Development, to which was referred Assembly Bill Number 363, has had the same under consideration. Begs the report, same back to recommendation, amended, do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Dina Neal, Chair. End of reports.
Thank you. Order Business Number 9, Motions, Resolutions, and Notices. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we take Assembly Bill 126, Assembly Bills 156 through 358, Assembly Bill 371, Assembly Bill 411, Assembly Bill 427, Assembly Bill 441, and Assembly Bill 492 from their place on general file and place them on general file for the next legislative day.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
That concludes Order Business Number 9.
Order Business Number 12, second reading.
Senate Bill Number 463, introduced by Senate Committee on Finance, makes appropriation Department of Education for transfer to certain charter schools. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Senate Bill 463, order the general file.
Senate Bill Number 65, introduced by Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, revises provisions relating to ethics in government. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 65, order the general file.
Senate Bill Number 219, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, etc., revises provisions governing the sealing of criminal records. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the file?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 219, order the general file.
Assembly Bill Number 224, introduced by Assemblywoman Duran, etc., provides for the access to menstrual products in certain public schools. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 224, order the general file.
Assembly Bill 230, introduced by Assemblyman Miller, etc., and Senators Orenshall, etc., revises provisions relating to juvenile justice. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 230, order the general file.
Assembly Bill Number 241, introduced by Assemblywoman Gonzalez, establishes provisions governing credits on terms of imprisonment during certain declarations of emergency. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 241, order the general file.
Assembly Bill Number 280, introduced by Assemblywoman Peters, etc., revises provisions relating to public restrooms. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 280, order to the general file.
Assembly Bill Number 315, introduced by Assemblyman O'Neill, etc., revises provisions relating to certain public employees. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 315, order the general file.
Assembly Bill Number 321, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson and Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, revises provisions relating to elections. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 321, order the general file.
Assembly Bill 341, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, provides for the licensure and regulation of cannabis consumption lounges. People State of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have Amendment Number 834, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Thank you. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we dispense with the reading of the amendment.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Brooks.
I move that we adopt Amendment Number 834 to Assembly Bill 341.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Brooks.
Yes, the amendment makes a few minor adjustments to the bill. In Section 10, it clarifies that it would be a cannabis facility which is operational. And Section 12.3 of the Section 20 of the bill requires the board to adopt regulations prescribing the manner in which it will determine whether a person who holds an adult use cannabis establishment license is ineligible to hold additional licenses. And Section 18 of the bill clarifies that existing law prohibits in general the consumption of cannabis or cannabis products in a public place. And it also authorizes the board to adopt regulations setting forth circumstances under which a person is authorized to consume cannabis in a public place. And it makes other
Bless you.
clarifying changes.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Ornschall.
Thank you, President. I want to make reference to my earlier disclosure this session on my wife's service with the Cannabis Compliance Board, and I will be abstaining on this vote.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to this bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 341 is ordered reprinted, engrossed into the general file.
Senate Bill 349, introduced by Senator Watts, revises provisions governing motor vehicles. People state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 349, ordered the general file.
Senate Bill 355, introduced by Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriation for various purposes relating to health and education. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 355, ordered the general file.
Assembly Bill number 363, introduced by Assemblywoman Wynn and Assemblyman Roberts, revises provisions governing transient lodging. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 363, order the general file.
Senate Bill 376, introduced by Assemblywoman Torres, et cetera, and Senators Neal, et cetera, enacts the Keep Nevada Working Act and makes various other changes relating to immigration. People of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 376, order the general file.
Assembly Bill number 387, introduced by Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, et cetera, revises provisions relating to midwives. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 387, order the general file.
Assembly Bill 416, introduced by Assembly Committee on Education, directs the legislative auditor to conduct an audit of the Nevada system of higher education. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 416, order the general file.
Assembly Bill number 432, introduced by Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, revises provisions relating to elections. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 432, order the general file.
Assembly Bill 443, introduced by Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, revises the interim committee structure of the legislature. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 443, order the general file.
Assembly Bill 445, introduced by Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, revises provisions relating to financial administration. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 445, order the general file.
Assembly Bill number 489, introduced by Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the legislative fund for capital improvement projects, one-time building maintenance, information technology purchases, and dues for national and regional organizations. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 489, order to the general file.
That concludes order of business number 12 on the third agenda.
Thank you. Order of business 13, third reading, general file.
Assembly Bill number 149, introduced by Assemblywoman Peters, et cetera, requires the Cannabis Compliance Board to create an electronic database containing certain information relating to testing conducted by cannabis independent testing laboratories. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, June Act as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Harris.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 149 requires the Cannabis Compliance Board to develop, implement, and maintain an electronic database concerning certain information relating to the testing of cannabis and cannabis products by cannabis independent testing laboratories. The database must contain the final results of all testing performed on cannabis or cannabis products that have been collected through computer software used for the seed to sale tracking of cannabis and cannabis products. In addition, the data must be easily accessible to the public and in a format that is exportable. Lastly, the board must submit a biennial report to the Director of the Legislative Council Bureau for transmittal to the next regular session of the legislature that details the amount of data uploaded to the database and the statistical relevance of such data as it pertains to cannabis independent testing laboratories in this state.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, President. There was a fellow from Las Vegas. I'm going to make reference to my earlier disclosure. My wife serves on the Cannabis Compliance Board. I will be abstaining.
Now I was all set now for the little sing-song. All right then. Wow. Further remarks. All right. Hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right. Looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 149 is 20 in favor, 1 abstain. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 365, introduced by Assemblywoman Peters, etc., revises provisions relating to governmental administration of the people's state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 10, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Lang.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 365 declares that it is in the public policy of the state that persons employed by the state be afforded respect, dignity, and equity within the workplace. This bill requires the departments of the state government to prepare and submit to the governor and to the legislature an annual report concerning equity in the workplace, which includes 1, a summary of each complaint filed by an employee in the immediate preceding calendar year that alleges conduct that which was unlawful but is against the declared public policy of the state, is not unlawful, 2, any action taken in response to such a complaint. The annual report relating to the judicial branch of the state government must also be submitted to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Nevada. The bill also requires the administrator of the Division of Human Resource Management of the Department of Administration to evaluate annually the effectiveness of any policy of the division intended to encourage equity in the workforce for persons of color and other persons of marginalized identities, and to prepare and submit a report to the governor and the legislature concerning the results of the evaluation. And finally, the bill requires the Personnel Commission within the Division of Human Resource Management to adopt regulations for training of supervisors and managerial employees concerning implicit bias. The bill is effective upon passage and approval for the purposes of adopting any regulations and performing any other preparatory administrative task, and on July 1, 2021 for all other purposes.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition to this legislation. We had quite a bit of discussion in the hearing, and while the policy that's presented as far as making sure that people are treated with respect, dignity, and equity in the workplace is what we absolutely need to do, what this bill does is basically provides for a complaint system for issues that are not unlawful. So it's a complaint system, they're not unlawful, but there's no protections for those who make complaints concerning retribution, confidentiality, and so forth. And there's really no process set up across the board to be able to provide complaints, respond to complaints, and to report the complaints. So there's no structure around this. And when you're talking about personnel issues, and when you're talking about someone making a complaint about a fellow employee, I think it's very important that those are treated carefully and confidentially, and that the individual who's making the complaint has assurances that there won't be retribution. So the language is extremely loose. And again, these are for acts that are not unlawful. Thank you. I urge opposition.
Thank you. Further remarks, Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you very much, President, and to you and through you to my colleague from Reno. Certainly, I understand her concerns, and I can't say they're not valid, but I don't see that this bill changes the current state of affairs. If someone feels they're being harassed in the workplace in a way that does not rise to the level of breaking any laws, and certainly throughout the bill, I see repeated the language that these reports that are required to be compiled, that any information contained in these reports must be reported in a manner that does not reveal the identity of that person. So certainly the reports are meant to keep the identity of the complainant and whoever they're complaining about, not reveal that information. But so I don't see anything changing in terms of what my colleague's concerned about from current law.
Thank you. Senator Seavers-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President, for a second time. So I've actually worked in government in a couple of different areas, and what I know is when there were, and I think what the sponsor was trying to address were sort of cultural issues and making sure they promote a certain type of workplace. And I can tell you when there were problems and those issues were brought to supervisors, in my experience, there was a process basically to have an external evaluation or someone really to come in to see what the issues were. And try to address those problems, because I do agree that we need to make sure that we have a supportive work environment for our employees. But I appreciate your response. And again, I think what this bill is trying to accomplish in some ways is the right way to go, or is laudable, but because there's no processes around it and there's really no protections. And we actually had a bill earlier around harassment, things that are unlawful, and we worked diligently to make sure that there were protections for the individual who was a victim. Thank you again.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 365 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 422, introduced by Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations Elections, makes various changes relating to elections. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
I have amendment number 813 proposed by Senator Orenshall.
Thank you. Senator Orenshall.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I move to dispense with the reading of Amendment 813.
Thank you. If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Orenshall.
Madam President, I move that the Assembly do adopt Amendment 813 to Assembly Bill 422.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks? Senator Orenshall.
Thank you, President. That's Amendment 813 to Assembly Bill 422 amends language that was adopted in Senate Bill 123 of the 2019 session regarding risk limiting audits and county clerks in terms of pushing the deadline out to January 1st of 2024 for them to start those. And that came from a request from the Clark County Registrar in terms of having the ability to initiate those risk limiting audits. County clerks could still perform them, and in fact, a conversation I had with the Clark County Registrar was that they could still be performed in Clark County, just not prior to the date that the canvass is returned to the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yea. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 422, ready for final action.
Assembly Bill number 422, introduced by Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations Elections, makes various changes relating to elections. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 through Section 41, subsection 2, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks? Senator Seavers-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 422 requires the Secretary of State to create a centralized, top-down database that collects and stores voter pre-registration and registration information from all counties. County clerks must use the database to collect and maintain records of voter pre-registration and registration. The Secretary of State is required to use the database to create the official statewide voter registration list. Beginning on January 1st, 2022, the Secretary of State is required to provide a progress report every 6 months to the Interim Finance Committee concerning its efforts to implement the provisions of this bill. Finally, AB 422 changes from January 1, 2022 to January 1, 2024, the effective date of provisions in Senate Bill 123 of the 2019 legislative session that require the Secretary of State to implement risk-limiting audits of election results, which are protocols that make use of statistical principles and methods designed to limit the risk of certifying an incorrect election outcome. The Secretary of State must develop a pilot program for conducting a risk-limiting audit of the results of the 2022 general election. Provisions related to risk-limiting audits and requiring periodic reports are effective upon passage and approval. The remaining provisions are effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting regulations and performing other preparatory tasks and on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. I urge your support of this legislation. We have been in need of a top-down registration system for quite some time, and part of the reason we had a difficult time during the last election was because the individual counties have different software. Some of them have different software than the Secretary of State, so they can't instantly synchronize the information. And that in part led to some of the delays in reporting. So I urge your support on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 422 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 464, introduced by Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to restore the balances in the stale claims account, the emergency account, the reserve for statutory contingency account, and the contingency account, and to the Interim Finance Committee to make certain allocations. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do act as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 5 of this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 464, as amended, makes general fund appropriations totaling $32.3 million to replenish the balances of the following statutory accounts: the stale claims account for $3,570,578, the emergency account for $239,791, the reserve for statutory contingency account $12,051,658, and the contingency account for Interim Finance Committee, $16,434,805. Assembly Bill 464 is a budget implementation bill and is effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 464 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority, declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 468, introduced by Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to various divisions of the Department of Motor Vehicles for replacement of computer hardware, software, and certain other equipment, into the Interim Finance Committee to allocate the department for certain computer programming costs. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do act as follows. Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 10, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 468, as amended, appropriates highway funds totaling $2,217,734 in FY 2021 to various divisions of the Department of Motor Vehicles to fund the following one-time expenditures: $23,677 to the Division of Information Technology for the replacement of the Duo Digipass security application and one UPS battery backup unit. $645,078 to the Division of Information Technology for the replacement of computer hardware and software and associated equipment. $38,916 to the Motor Carrier Division for the replacement of computer hardware and software. $561,647 to the Division of Field Services for the replacement of credit card readers, scanners, shredders, facsimile machines, and stylus marking systems. Facsimile machines. $61,614 to the Division of Field Services for the replacement of barcode scanners. $745,632 to the Division of Field Services for the replacement of computer hardware and software. $51,874 to the Division of Compliance Enforcement for the replacement of computer hardware and software. $42,408 to the Office of the Director for the replacement of computer hardware and software, and $46,888 to the Administrative Services Division for the replacement of computer hardware and software. The bill, as amended, also appropriates highway funds of $615,643 to the Interim Finance Committee, which may be allowed to the Department of Motor Vehicles for the cost of computer programming related to the legislation enacted by the 81st session of the Nevada Legislature and approved by the Governor. Assembly Bill 468, as amended, becomes effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a question, actually. Somebody told me, and I'm not on finance, that we had already spent $35 million last session, perhaps, getting computer systems for DMV. Then I understand that they somehow didn't work and they got sold to some other government agency. Can anybody elaborate, or I don't know if Chair of Finance knows, or if anybody knows if that's accurate or not, or if that's just a rumor?
Thank you. Senator Brooks.
A few sessions ago, a decision was made to abandon a project that was undertook a few sessions before that, and the hardware for that project was actually repurposed and reused by another agency within state government and for a transfer. And this, however, this particular bill does not address that. This is just like random computer stuff throughout the entire agency, not a modernization effort.
Okay, so what needed to find out, so several sessions ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 468 is 21 in favor, 0 against. Bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 487, introduced by Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, suspends certain required transfers from the State General Fund to the account to stabilize the operation of state government during the 2021-2023 biennium. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 487 suspends the transfer from the State General Fund to the account to stabilize the operation of the state government of 1% of the total anticipated revenue for each fiscal year of the 2021-23 biennium. This act becomes effective upon passage and approval.
Thank you. Further remarks. Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. I have vacillated somewhat on this bill. I think I voted yes to get it out of committee and reserve my right to vote no on the floor, and then I think I told the chairman that I was going to vote yes, and now I think I'm going to vote no. So this suspends one of the two automatic transfers from the general fund to the rainy day fund, and so this would account for, and I'm going to use rough numbers, around $45 million, $47 million a year that should transfer to the rainy day fund and is not going to if we pass this bill. So it's a balancing act between ensuring that we have enough money in our general fund to maintain a healthy ending fund balance, while also wanting to make sure that we have an account that will be stable for the long term for our fiscal health. And I'm speaking specifically to 487, which is the correct bill that we're on right now, right? So, we just heard in a joint session of Ways and Means and Finance a bill that would actually deposit $168 million into our general fund, which would be significantly more than what this transfer would be. We also know we're going to receive some revenue offset allowance from the American Recovery Plan funds. So I think at this point, it looks favorable that we're going to have sufficient funds in our general fund to maintain a very healthy ending fund balance, and that this transfer away from the rainy day fund is unnecessary. So I'd prefer to err on the side of stability and putting some money into our savings account. Thank you, Madam President, for the rambling comment on the bill. Thanks.
You didn't make it into a limerick now, not like Senator Orenshaw, but okay. All right, further remarks. Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Madam President. I share my colleague's concern with permanently suspending this transfer, but we do find ourselves in a historic situation in that our revenue fell completely off a cliff, is coming back, and then there are usable federal funds that will help us to fund operations of the government to a certain extent, that it has been demonstrated that we will be able to restore that rainy day account to its level that it needs to be at. And to me, this transfer, the suspension of the transfer is hopefully, a temporary situation for the purposes of balancing the books coming out of this budget cycle. And so while I wouldn't feel comfortable under regular circumstances, the suspension of this, these are not regular circumstances. And so I feel very comfortable moving forward with this bill.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 487 is 12 in favor, 9 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 493, introduced by Senate Committee on Ways and Means, provides for the compensation of state employees. The people of the state of Nevada represented in the Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1 to Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 17, this act becomes effective July 1, 2021. End of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Madam President. Assembly Bill 493 establishes the maximum allowable salaries for certain employees not in the classified service of the state. The bill also makes general fund appropriations of $17.1 million and highway fund appropriations of $3.1 million for salary increases for non-classified, classified, and unclassified state employees. For state employees who are not represented by an approved collective bargaining agreement pursuant to NRS 288.515 as of May 25th, 2021, the bill provides funding for a 1% salary increase for fiscal year 2023 effective July 1st, 2022. For state employees organized in the following collective bargaining units as defined in NRS 288.515, Assembly Bill 493 includes funding for a 3% salary increase for fiscal year 2023, effective July 1st, 2022. Unit A, labor, maintenance, custodial, and institutional employees. Unit E, professional employees who provide health care. Unit F, employees other than professional employees who provide health care and personal care. Unit I, Category 3 peace officers, and Unit K, firefighters. For Category 2 peace officers organized in Unit H, the bill also includes funding for a 2% salary increase, in addition to the 1% salary increase for non-represented state employees for fiscal year 2023, effective July 1st, 2022, as well as a one-time bonus payments in July 2022 for personnel who have certain continuous state service levels. Assembly Bill 493 authorizes the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Corrections to provide callback pay for unclassified medical positions and pharmacists to perform on-call responsibilities to ensure 24-hour coverage in psychiatric and medical facilities. The bill also authorizes the Gaming Control Board to continue the credential pay plan, which provides up to $5,000 annually for unclassified employees who possess a current Nevada Certified Public Accountant certificate, a license to practice law, or in a qualifying position as an electronic laboratory engineer and possess a Bachelor of Science or a higher degree in engineering, electronic engineering, or computer science. The bill becomes effective July 1st, 2021.
Thank you. Further remarks. Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition to Assembly Bill 493. During the committee hearing, we learned that the governor provided an amendment to the budget to allow for a 1% cost of living increase for all employees. And then when the bill came through, those who had collective bargaining agreements were able to get 3%. And in the state of Nevada, we have 25% of the public employees who are under collective bargaining. So 25% of employees would get 3%, and the other 75% would be eligible for 1%. We have concerns about compression and individuals making more than their supervisors. And when asked the question whether there'd been any work done around the compression study, the answer was not at this time. So again, because of the inequity between the cost of living increases between those in the bargaining units and those that are not, and concerns about compression, I will be voting against this Assembly bill.
Thank you. Senator Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if someone, sponsor or whoever it is, could tell me what the rational basis for the difference, the 1% versus the 3%. Is it that someone is more equal than others? Is there a rational basis for this, or is this strictly a union issue? Give me to the union.
To my colleague, if you'll just stand by, we'll find that someone.
Thank you. Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, so the issue is that this is the first time that the pay bill is incorporating the provisions of the collectively bargained contracts with the new bargaining units that were established through the law that was passed in 2019. So this is the effectuation of the negotiations between the individual collective bargaining units and the executive branch of government that have been ratified by the Board of Examiners. And then forwarded as a part of this. So I think my concern is that, especially even in areas of local government, when you have some collectively bargained contracts that are providing a certain increase, there's generally an effort to equalize those increases with with employees that are not bargaining, so that people continue to be treated fairly and equally, despite their regardless of their status. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Ratty.
Thank you, Madam President. I share some of the concerns of my colleagues at this point at 9:43 on May 30th. This is the bill that allows us to pay all of our employees, and so I'm voting yes because I think it's important that we pay all of our employees. I appreciate the dialogue, and we need to move it forward. I share some of the concerns, but I'll be a yes.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right. Senator Pickard.
Point of order, am I entitled to an answer to my question, or is that just part of the discussion?
Madam President?
All right. Well, I'm sorry.
If he could repeat, if the good senator would repeat the question, I'd be happy to answer it. We had some other things going on over here.
Sure, I appreciate that. I'm just wondering what the rational basis for the difference, not that there is a difference because of collective bargaining, that's not a basis for a difference in income. If there are two people doing the same job, one's a member of a collective bargaining unit, the other isn't, is there a rational basis to pay them differently, or are we just playing favorites here and telling the 75% that their work is not valued?
Thank you for the question, through you, Madam President, to my colleague from District 20. So first of all, I think it's important to note that in most cases, and I think in all cases, but I'll just couch it just a little bit and say in most cases, it shouldn't be the same employee doing the same job because the collective bargaining units are set up in statute by the type of position. So for example, all executive assistants are grouped into the same group, all firefighters are grouped in the same group. There may be some gray area there in a couple of cases, but for the most part, if you're talking about an executive assistant, whether they work in the Department of Health and Human Services or at NSHE or at the DMV, they're in the same bargaining group. So they should be apples to apples. In terms of a rational basis as to why, say, one group, firefighters, has completed their organizing process and their collective bargaining process, and another group, again, going back to administrative employees, has not. I don't know that there's a rational basis for that, except for that it is the organizing process. So I hope that answers your question. I am sincerely trying to answer it.
No, I appreciate that, and it does actually answer the question, and that's what I guess what I find disturbing is because this becomes a reward and an incentive to put everyone under a collective bargaining unit because we don't pay them if they don't. To me, that seems to be a little inappropriate in a pay structure, but we don't need to belabor it further. I just wanted to know what that was, and I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Madam President. I also just want to clarify that I understand my colleague from Henderson is looking for a rational basis for the distinction, and a rational basis test is utilized in an equal protection case under the 4th or 5th or 14th Amendment, and I don't think that these cases rise to that level. I am reading through the bill right now, and I am also trying to recall my best constitutional law classes from law school as I can, but I think that it's important that we note that, we can throw out legal terminology all we want, rational basis, strict scrutiny, narrowly tailored statutes, and that's all well and good, but if it doesn't actually apply to the groups of people that we're talking about, it doesn't actually matter. And in this case, when you're talking about employing hundreds, thousands of people across the state of Nevada, the rational basis test is not the appropriate legal mechanism to determine whether or not the distinction is legal and appropriate. And so I think that, much to my other colleague from the North's point, this is the bill that we have that allows us to pay our state employees. And so it might not be perfect, but in fact, it is very important that we pay state employees, and I will also be supporting the bill.
Thank you. Senator Settlemeyer.
Thank you, Madam President. I was going to bring up my discussion of con law from my con law class in law school, but I'm just going to go with cowboy logic. It's wrong. It's just fundamentally wrong. And as I sit here and look at people in front of us that have done good work for us for the entire time frame that I've been around this building, and did it for previous senators as well, And this person that I'm thinking of gets paid disproportionately less than the person across the hall. Just wrong.
Thank you for the remarks. Excuse me. All right, hearing none, Secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the Secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 493 is 12 in favor, 9 against. Bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
Assembly Bill number 494, introduced by Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes various changes regarding state financial administration, makes appropriations for the support of civil government of the state, the people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 of Section 1.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the bill?
There are none. Section 103, subsection 10, end of bill.
Thank you. Remarks from the floor. Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay. Assembly Bill 494 is the General Fund Appropriations Bill. It's the General Appropriations Act with a total of $2,924,750,372 in fiscal year 2022, and $3,091,481,545 in fiscal year 2023, or $6.026 billion over the 2021-23 biennium, an increase of approximately $292.3 million when compared to general fund appropriations approved by the 2019 legislature for the 2019-21 biennium. So again, it's about $6 billion or $292 million over the 2019-21 biennium. The act includes highway fund appropriations totaling $146,678,364 in fiscal year 2022 and $158,702,610 in fiscal year 2023, or $305.4 million over the 21-23 biennium, an increase of approximately $41 million from the previous biennium. For the K-12 budget, funding for the public schools and K-12 education was considered separately in the K-12 education funding bill, which contains funding for the pupil-centered funding plan and other programs related to K-12 education. In closing the Department of Education budgets, the Money Committees approved general fund support totaling $91.7 million over the 2021-23 biennium, which includes $25.7 million to fund the administration of statewide assessments. In closing the budgets of the Nevada System of Higher Education, the Money Committees approved total general fund appropriations of $1.28 billion over the 2021-23 biennium. In approving the NISHE budgets, the Money Committees continued funding the 7 state-supported instructional budgets with the higher education funding formula and distributing general fund appropriations based on the NSHE institution's fiscal year 2020 weighted student credit hours. In closing the Aging and Disability Services Division budgets, the Money Committees approved general fund appropriations totaling $413.2 million over the 2021-23 biennium. The funding supports ongoing services, caseload growth, and/or weight loss reductions, and associated staffing adjustments for various programs. In closing the budgets within the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy, the Money Committees approved general fund appropriations totaling $2.11 billion over the 2021-23 biennium. The funding supports projected Medicaid average monthly caseload of approximately 831,000 in fiscal year 2022 and 822,000 in fiscal year 2023, and projected checkup average monthly caseload of approximately 28,400 in fiscal year 22 and 29,000 in fiscal year 23. The Money Committees approved general fund appropriations of $203.4 million over the 2021-23 biennium for the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. Due to a projected increase in client transactions, the Money Committees approved the addition of 295 positions over the biennium with a general fund cost of $12.3 million over the 2021-23 biennium in the field services budget. The Money Committees approved general fund appropriations totaling $274.2 million over the 2021-23 biennium for the Division of Child and Family Services. The Money Committees approved highway funds of $137.8 million over the 2021-23 biennium to support the operations of the Department of Motor Vehicles. Included in this amount are highway fund appropriations totaling $39.2 million over the 2023 biennium to continue the department's system transformation effort. In closing the 2021-23 biennium budgets for the Public Employees Benefit Program, the Money Committee has approved general fund appropriations of $6 million in each fiscal year to fund the cost of a one-month premium holiday for state participants, regardless of the plan or tier in which a participant is enrolled. To restore funding for 795.57 full-time equivalent positions in various state agency budget accounts that were recommended to be held vacant or eliminated in the executive budget as general fund saving measures, the Money Committee has approved replacing general fund appropriations of $116.2 million over the 2021-23 biennium with federal American Rescue Plan coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? All right, hearing none, the secretary will open the roll. All right, looks like everyone's voted. Does anyone wish to change his or her vote? All right, the secretary will close the roll. The vote on Assembly Bill 494 is 21 in favor, 0 against. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Order the Assembly.
That concludes order of business number 13 on the third agenda.
Thank you.
Madam President, may we get a 1-minute recess?
Yes, 1 minute recess at the call of the chair. All right, here we are. We're still on the third agenda. We finished Order Business 13. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the action whereby Assembly Bill 487 was passed be rescinded and reconsidered. Sorry, reconsidered, not rescinded.
487, you want to reconsider that?
Yes, Madam President.
All right, hold on a second. Sorry, I making notes. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yay. Yay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to take Assembly Bill 487 from its place on general file and place it on the Secretary's desk.
You know what's the best is when your baby's hiccuping. Anyway, okay, you have heard the motion. That wasn't about the baby. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yay. Yay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Secretary's desk. So lovely. Okay.
And that concludes Order Business number 9.
That was Order Business 9. Okay. Order Business 14, unless Senator Cannizzaro? Baby? Nothing? Okay, all right. Order Business 14, unfinished business, concur.
Senate Bill number 369, introduced by Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to criminal procedure. The Assembly has amended this bill with amendments numbers 652 and 676. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in these matters?
Thank you. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate not concur in these amendments.
Thank you. Senator Scheibel has moved that Senate does not concur in Assembly Amendments number 652 and 676 to Senate Bill number 369. Are there any remarks? Senator Scheibel.
I think this can be worked out in a conference committee.
Thank you. Hearing none, all those in further remarks? No. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yay. Yay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate bill ordered and rolled. The Assembly to be notified of our action. You know what? Not concur. Senate bill to Assembly. Okay, good.
That concludes Order of Business number 14 and business of the desk for this legislative day.
Thank you. Order of Business 16, remarks from the floor. Any? All right. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Madam President. And to my colleague from Senate District 19 and I were wagering on what time it might be, and I was we're 2 minutes behind where we thought we might be, which I consider a success. So thank you to everyone for a late night. And with that, Madam President, I move we stand in adjournment until the hour of 11 a.m. on Monday, May 31st, 2021.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying yay. Yay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Please be careful, guys. Try to get some sleep for the last day, okay? Especially for the baby.